Thank you, and thanks for coming. My little speech here, I'm going to try to see if I can catch a little bit of all of you. I asked a lot of questions about who's here and make it interesting for you. I've been told by people who do this for a living that I'm supposed to say a little bit about myself, a little bit about you, and then I have two issues in a theme I want to talk about, which I think you'll find interesting. Who am I? I came from a small town in New England. My parents didn't go to high school. They were 8th, 9th grade educated people, which I always took as a huge advantage, since the expectations for me were very modest. I went to junior high school, and one of the most important things that ever happened to me happened in junior high school. I was very shy, and I used to ride my bike to school every day, and we were in the 8th grade, which is the beginning of high school, but it was in junior high school, and I had this tremendous fascination for girls, but I was really shy, so I never had a girlfriend. I actually never had a girlfriend in high school either. But there were 3 girls who lived across the street, and I would time it so that I could ride my bike while they walked to school. I wasn't certainly going to do anything about it, but it was pretty much the highlight of my youth. And I had a friend, and he was like me. He was a moron, and we would walk them to school every day. And somewhere along the way, my long-term plan was I was going to speak to them. Anyway, we were walking to school like we did every day, and along came a big, long red car. And there was a high school student in it. He was like the quarterback of the football team. And he was like a man, you know. He was shaving and 5 years older than us. And he turned to the 3 girls who were sisters and said, "Do you want to ride to school?" And I thought to myself, what is he talking about? You know, I don't understand. I didn't get it. And very quickly they just turned and said, yes. And they all got in the car, and the next thing I saw was, and off they went. I was completely confused, and I got to junior high school, and I talked to my best friend, who was, and still is, kind of an unusual guy. I said, "You're not going to believe what happened. These guys from high school came, and they took the girls." And he said, "Yeah, that's going to happen. That's the future." And I said, "Well, what about us?" And he said, "We're doomed. We ride bicycles. We have to take the girls younger than us." I said, I'm 13. What are these girls? We're going to date girls who are 9? I mean, so that was my first lesson in competition. I was angry. I went home that night and I took my bicycle. I went to the backyard and I threw it down the hill, you know, and ruined it. A couple of days went by. My father said, "Where's your bike?" And I said, "Look, bikes are out. I'm competing with guys with cars, guys who shave, and they're going to take all the girls. Phil said so. We're ruined." And my father very nonchalantly says, "Yeah, that's how it works." So that is pretty much the highlight of my life right there. Trying to get even with the guy who took the girls in the red car. So I went to high school, nothing much there. I never had a girlfriend. And then my idea was college was I was going to catch up. And college was going to be, to me, nonstop partying and sex. And so the first college I went to was Boston College. I lasted 1 day. When I found out there were crosses on the wall. It's a religious school. I hadn't really done a lot of work on it. So I quit, and then I went to the University of Miami with the idea that there must be women there. And I didn't have a girlfriend there either, and I quit that. And then I went to Boston University, and that wasn't any better. So after about a couple months of that, I went back and I saw my father, and I said, "It's not at all what you think," because he hadn't even gone to high school. I said, "It's not. There's not a lot of sex. There's not a lot of partying. People go to class." And so my father said, "Why don't you go in the Army?" I said, No, I don't want to go in the Army. So I went back to college, and met this friend, and our theory was if college wasn't going to work for us, we were going to go on this one tour. I think I was 17 or 18, and we were going to see the entire world. We were going to see a country a day. There were 195 countries. It was going to take us 195 days. So off we went, and it's a lot bigger world than you thought, particularly when you're that age and don't have so much money. So we did 36 straight countries in about 40 days, and then we get sick. And I came back with the idea that, well, I got to finish college. So what I did was my specialty was giving blood. I used to give blood once a week, and it had two benefits. One is you get paid cash as soon as you gave it, and secondly, it's very easy to get drunk right after you've given blood because you're anemic. So that was the end of college. I wanted to go to law school because it seemed like a way to make a living, and it seemed like they were having fun. But I had a horrible grade point average. I had a 1.9, which at that time was not quite a C. But my theory was I would go around and interview. So I went to Cornell, which was the smallest law school in the country, to try to talk the dean into it. And I sat there for almost a whole day, and then finally he saw me. And I said, look, all these guys who are coming and these women are coming here, they're boring and dull, and they're all going to work for corporate America. You need somebody who's going to sue these people, and I'm your guy. And I want just one seat. You can give 224 seats to corporate America and just one seat for me. And we talked about an hour and a half. And then finally he saw my transcript and he said, you have a 1.9. There's nobody in here who was less than whatever it was, 3.6, whatever. And I said, that's just a technicality. He said, what were you doing all that time? And I told him I was giving blood and trying to find a girlfriend, which I was still working on. And I was that close. And finally at the end he said, I can't believe I'm spending all this time with you. I'm not going to let somebody with a 1.9 into Cornell. But the light came on, and that was my next revelation after the guy with the red car, that you can, through sheer persistence, I almost talked my way into Cornell. I went back and I wrote these essays to law schools about inequality and unfairness and all that, and I talked a couple of them into it, and I went to law school, and things went from there. I don't know what all that means, but that's the 4 minutes I'm supposed to give you about myself. Number two, who are you? This is how I look at everything. I think the world's very, very simple if you spend your days breaking down what it is, who you are, and how it works. So this is who you are, in my opinion. There's 8 billion people in the world. There's about 320 million in the United States. There's a little short of 1 million here in Delaware. There's 71,000 here in Wilmington. There's about 140 of you here in the room. So right now, the present, you're one of 130, 40 people. Who are your neighbors? Who do you deal with? And I guarantee you, none of you know this answer. Do you have any idea who America's made up of? Does anybody in the room know what is the largest ethnic group in the United States? Does anybody know? Yeah, it's the Germans. So I'm going to tell you who your neighbors are. There's 49 million Germans in the United States. There's 41 million African Americans. There's 35 million Irish, 6 times the number of people in Ireland. There's 31 million Mexicans. There's 26 million English, and so forth. So we're a country of just about everybody else. So from that, I've concluded as to yourselves, nobody's watching you, nobody's judging you. Nobody cares where you came from, what your background is. You are, in essence, a free person. And my view of you is that you're absolutely perfect the way you are. And what I mean by that is I wouldn't spend 1 second of the rest of your life ever trying to be anybody else than who you are. Exactly who you are. You're perfect. There's nobody quite like you. Nobody talks like you. Nobody has your style. Nobody has your mannerisms. You're like a perfect person. So with respect to yourself, I think you're lovely the way you are. And as you go through life, for those of you who are younger or for those of you who are older, are you wrapping it up, my message is to relax and enjoy yourself and perfect who you are. And all these other books and theories that are written about all the other views of it, That's fine, but my view is not that view. Third point is, how do you do something that you really want to do when you're doing something else? I assume for a lot of people here, you have a lot of dreams, a lot of things that you like to do, but in order to make a living, you're doing something else. And my answer is it's very easy to do a lot of other additional things if you have partners. And if you walk out of here with one thought, the thought I would give you is you can do anything with partners. The world's full of people who want to partner up. And I've been in partnerships my whole life, and they're very easy to do. You start with friends, you start with family, you start with people you know. Everybody wants to partner with everybody else. It's very easy to do. You need less money, and the banks that usually take all the risk, they love partners. So the bigger issue is for those of you who want to develop things in Delaware, which I'll get to, with partners, you get an opportunity to share the risk. And let's look at how successful it's been. You all know the story about Facebook, right? Facebook's just a bunch of guys who were at school at Harvard. They became partners. That's what Apple is. If you look at all the companies that have made it in the last 10 years, all of them are partnerships. They're all just a group of people with an idea. And that brings up the issues of banks. I have a different view of them. Yes, I started a bank and I have a bank, but I've always loved banks because this is what banks really do. It's a building that you drive by on the highway. They give you the money. They take the biggest risk. You buy a house, you put up 20%, they give you 80%. They never interfere with the management of it. They make you make all the decisions, and then when you make a profit, they don't get any of it. It's a wonderful concept. So for those of you who don't like banks or are somehow offended by it, you need to rethink that. They have more people who save than lend. We're in the banking business. Our biggest problem is getting the money out the door, trying to find people like you who want the money. So it's easier to walk in the door with partners with an idea than it is by yourself. And they bend over backwards as we do to lend you the money. Everybody wants to give you the money. The next and probably most important point I want to give to you is death. You're all going to die relatively soon. And I want you to absorb that in this way. It's not like you're going to live to be 600. Let's just practice that concept. If you were going to live 600 years, that means you'd have 50 years of college. You'd be on your 37th or 38th year. Our college is very short. High school is very short. And life is extremely short. By the time you figure it out, you're in your 30s or 40s. By the time you're my age, everything's going wrong. You're falling apart, and death is right around the corner. So your window is very short, very short. So what is it that you're worrying about? Is it that people are watching you? I told you before, nobody's watching you. If you go home tonight and you write down on a piece of paper every single person you know who's not a relative, I guarantee you don't know more than 40 people. And by knowing, meaning you know where they live and work, and they know where you live and work. You don't know 40 people. About 30 of those people like you anyway. That's why they're your friends. And of the other 10, there's 10 people in the whole world of 8 billion who may not like you. Why would you spend any time trying to change yourself for them? Why? Because you got screwed up like all of us in high school, or in my case, junior high school. I still hate that guy in the red car, and I still want to win those girls, even though I don't know yet where they live. But for those problems. I used to spend a lot of time playing tennis, and I live in Washington, D.C. with my wife. We also live in Delaware. And I used to play tennis every Sunday, and the court over for me was Sandra Day O'Connor. And when you live in D.C. and you see these people after a while, you learn not to say anything to them. It's kind of like rock stars. You leave them alone after a while. And I never did speak to her until about the 7th or 8th year. We were waiting for the courts to get fixed, and I said, look, I've been next to you for 8 or 9 years. Can I ask you a question? How do you go to these meetings and these dinners and all that and meet these horribly boring people and get through it all? How do you do it? Because I think, this is going to sound horrible, I think most people are very, very boring. Most people are just torture for me, and I can't sit down and go through it. And I'm always either going to the bathroom or fantasizing or whatever, because most people, they want to talk to you about their kids or something. And I have kids. I'm not big on kids, and I don't like old people, so my world is very limited. And I said, how do you get through it? How the hell do you sit here with all these freaking fucking boring people and get through it? And she said, high school. You just bring up high school and let them talk about high school and you daydream. So Sandra Day O'Connor taught me that, and that's kind of my rule. But I want to give you some insights that I could pass along to you about why you should consider changing your life somewhat, because you're going to die soon. One, I have 5 ideas for you of how to make a lot of money in Delaware, if you like money. If you don't, you can skip this part. One is, we have an ocean, which is a huge, huge benefit. And if you know this, do you know how many states there are that have an ocean? Anybody? There's 14 that are on the Atlantic Ocean, there's 5 on the Pacific. All the other states don't have an ocean. Ocean's a huge draw. So we have an ocean, and it's in Sussex County, essentially, and there's nobody living there. So you want to make a lot of money, live near the ocean, and just about anything you do will work down there. I mean, like, I'm an idiot, and I'm rich as shit. I have an enormous amount of money, and I'm right on the borderline. I have a 1.9 average. Number 2, we have lots of land. Most of it's undeveloped. Very few states have that. 3, we have lots of elderly people. I don't like them, but they've got lots of needs, and they're the boomer generation's wealthy because it's the most selfish generation that ever existed. They need a lot of stuff, and they don't want to die. Believe me, I'm on the board of a hospital. None of these people want to die. Nobody wants to die anymore. They're going to live forever, right? Do you read the obituaries? I love to read the obituaries in the Sunday New York Times, and I read them all, and I try to understand what they're about, and then I read the nuptials about people getting married, because they have a theory that everybody, excuse my French, wants to fuck themselves. So people try to find somebody that they can marry who looks like them. So every Sunday I take the New York Times and I tip it upside down and I look at the couples, and most people, I don't know your feelings, but people pick somebody who looks like themselves, because that's basically what they're most comfortable with. Anyway, there's a lot of elderly people and they need a lot of stuff. Number 4, there's very little competition here in Delaware. There's hardly anybody who lives here. We have lots of land, we have the ocean. There's no competition for almost anything. And I know what some of you are thinking, and I want to straighten this out. Well, we used to manufacture cars here. We had General Motors and all. I've heard that story. Let's talk about what those great jobs were. Your grandfather and your uncle on an assembly line, and something came by and they did something mechanical that a robot could. That was their job. Really? That's a good job? Really? That's what you're down to? You want to be on an assembly line? That's not a good job. That was a job in the 40s and 50s. That's not the future of Delaware. Let the robots make the cars. There's a lot more interesting jobs, and there's a lot of jobs here in Delaware. And number 5, we have a very pro-business legislature. You can come up with any idea you want. You can go to Legislative Hall in Dover, and they'll put it into a committee, and you can get your hearing. It's very, very simple. So I think Delaware has a big advantage for those reasons. And I think you can do just about anything in Delaware, and you'll find that everybody wants you to succeed because it's such a small place. I mean, you can go to Legislative Hall and see the governor. He's there a couple days a week. You can see anybody you want. You can go to Deldite and get your approvals. I think it's very easy. My thought is, don't look backwards and talk about what we used to be and act like those were great jobs. I don't think any of those jobs are interesting at all. Not at all. I think the jobs that are coming forward are very, very interesting. I think what Uber does is very interesting, right? You have your own cab company. What a great idea. I need a cab. You hit the button and they come to you, right? And you even get to pick what kind of car you want. If you don't like the guy, you can pick somebody else. That's the future. One more comment about making money. Money's made through investing. It's not made through salaries, and I'll prove it to you. I've studied the state of Delaware. There's 325,000 households. Guess how many of these households make $1 million or more in their salary? Anyone? How many out of 325,000? 4,000. 4,000, that's all. So the other 324,000 don't make $1 million. They make a lot less. But there's a lot more than 4,000 people who are doing well here because of investing. And that goes to my whole concept is you need partners. Don't try to do it yourself, get partners. There's plenty of people you know who would love to do something with you, and I'll get back to that in a second. Next point, your presentation as a person. I have just 3 thoughts for you. 1, always try to dress better than your audience. It's a Steve Martin rule, and I think it's true. I really like my hat. I think I look better than all of you. 2, please learn how to give a full handshake and your full name. This is something women do that drives me crazy. Women are so apologetic all the time. They put out the hand, they give you about a third of their hand, and they just give you their first name. Don't do that shit. Grab someone's hand and say your full name. Mary Lou Jones. Hold it. Now you're in control. Look at them, they look at you, and for that moment, Mary Lou Jones is the queen of the hop. Then let it go. Don't do this half a hand thing and just say your first name. What does that mean, Susan? Or don't do that. And for men, the same thing. Grab the full hand, hold on to it, say your full name as if to say, I'm right fucking here. That's who you're meeting. I'm right here. Please do that. 3, most people are really crappy, lousy dancers, and that includes you. Nobody likes to see you dance. When you go to these functions, don't go out there and dance. You look like a jerk. And I know you all think you're really cool from high school. It's really not. And 4, in terms of your presentation, most people need to learn how to eat. You eat 3 times a day, and most of you eat like barbarians. Sit down, get on a video, and learn how to eat. Learn how to hold a fork and a knife. Half the women hold it this way, and they saw. There's 2 systems you can use. You can use the pointer system, and you can eat British style. I don't care how you do it. Would you please learn how to eat? Bring the food to you and learn how to cut. If you watch at a table, even here, you watch, most people have never given any thought how to eat. It drives me freaking crazy. Also, would you please put your napkin on your lap? That's what it's for. I sometimes, because I have OCD, I watch people through the whole meal. They never put their napkin on their lap. I'm so tempted all the time to say, here, let me help you. That's what it's for. But my wife gets upset. 5 things you should stop saying if you want to be successful in business. 1, stop saying you're stressed out. It sounds like you're 7. Nobody wants to hear that. You're not stressed out. You sleep 8 hours a day. You work 8 hours a day. You have 8 free hours. What are you doing with those 8 hours? I know what you're doing. You're watching television. You're bullshitting. You're doing nothing. You're driving around in the car. You're not stressed out. You don't know what stressed out is. Unless you have 5 jobs and you got 9 kids, your life is simple. Don't say that. Every time someone says, I'm so stressed out, I want to get a gun. My big cause is National Crime Day. I want one day a year when you can kill anybody and it's not a crime. Because I have a whole mess of fucking people I really want to get rid of, which will make it better for all of us. Number 2, stop talking about food all the time. It's just chemicals. You got to eat 3 times a day. Nobody wants to hear you talk about, God, I'm so starving. You won't believe what I ate last night. Who gives a fuck? I'm not interested in that. It's just goddamn chemicals. It's just chemicals. Don't make a big thing out of it. And I own 6 restaurants, and you guys give me a lot of money. I don't pay any attention. Pete does. My chef's here, and he does. But I say the same thing about it. Don't talk about it so much. You sound childish. 3, stop blaming your parents for everything. Trust me, if your parents had died the day you were born, you'd still be the same person. But you let them go. I'm tired of sitting in all these meetings where people talk about my mother was this, or my father was that. Bullshit. You are who you are. You're glad you had a parent. Be grateful. Stop making fun of them all the time. They're not even around. Every time people do, it's like when people talk about their ex-wives and they make fun of them, or their ex-husbands, I always think, you asshole. You married them. Don't tell me that they're jerks. What a coincidence. They were lovely when you were with them, but now that you're not, they're assholes. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. Why can't just say something? I used to be married to a woman, not married to her anymore. She's really lovely. She didn't love me. I don't know. So she loves somebody else. 4, stop telling jokes. Everybody sucks at telling jokes. Don't do that anymore. And 5, stop with the long answers. If you don't have an answer that's 2 or 3 words, you're bullshitting. All long answers are not true. They're never true. When it starts off this way, you're not going to believe what happened to me last night. That's a lie. Here comes a lie, because I won't believe what happened last night because you're making the damn story up. 3, rules of business. Vague is always bad in business. If you're getting a vague answer, it's not true and it's bad for you and your business. 2, banks are great partners. I told you why. They give you the money. They don't have a voice. They never take the profits. And 3, there are lots of smart people around. You guys are all smart. You're all much smarter than I am. Everybody's smart. Everybody knows what's going on. Steal their ideas. I call them borrow them. Now, I just stole a great idea from Cracker Barrel. I designed a building that looks exactly like Cracker Barrel. Now, I got sued, and I had to change the building, but I thought that was a really good idea. Cost me a lot of money. My lawyer says, what were you thinking? And my answer was, I wasn't thinking at all. I just thought, they got 600 of these buildings. I'll just take a photo of it and build the same thing and paint it a different color. Anyway, I got sued and I lost. Character faults. I'm a big believer in character faults. All the weird shit about you is the best stuff. In other words, this is what goes on. I have a place called the Bottle and Cork. I've had it for 25 years. Every Saturday we have like 1,000 people, 500 guys, 500 girls. What you really should do, if you're still single, is you should walk up to the girl and say, hey, this is who I am. Does it ring your bell at all? Is there anything here that you like? Most of the time the girl will say, no, you're not my style. And I say, it's okay. What about your girlfriend? You have a sister, whatever. That's how it should be done. You get right to the heart of it, right? Nobody does that. Everybody runs around and acts like, the guys act like there's no girls in the room and the girls act like there's no guys in the room. It's also phony, right? But I think there's another way to get to it, which is if you go up to somebody and you tell them all the shitty stuff about you, most people feel like, I can fix that guy. So I'll tell you some stuff about myself. I'm really lousy at sex. I'm nervous all the time. I'm not any good at it. My wife will tell you, she's here. I'm really, really crummy at it. But I used to tell her all the time, I hate the pressure of it all. I feel like I'm a seal or something, and I'm clumsy, and I don't know, is it too high, is it too low? I don't know your body all that well. She fixed all of that, at least temporarily, and that taught me a lesson about flaws. So I think if you tell people what's wrong with you, they kind of like it. Number 2, don't worry about celebrities. They're always disappointing. We spend a lot of time in Hollywood. I made a movie there, and we have nightclubs and venues. The average celebrity is boring as a fuck, and you're not missing anything. And most of them don't know each other. Now, I'll give you a good example. We made a movie in Delaware with Leah Thompson and Judd Nelson, and when we were out in Hollywood, I had to go meet them. Leah lives in the Valley with her husband's a director and her daughters are actresses, and we went to their place, really kind of nice, and I said, who lives next door? And she said, that's George Clooney. I said, oh, is he a nice guy? And she said, never met him. So this week, the big story, of course, was there was a big fundraiser. George Clooney had $350,000 a couple, and I thought of Leah, and who we're still friends with, and she's never met him. And that's how most celebrities are. They don't really know each other. They spend most of their time trying to stay busy. Most actors and actresses are unemployed, like most musicians, and very few of them have very much money. They have a nice house, and that's usually about it. There are a lot of bad people who are famous, and let me make you feel better. We had 12 presidents who had slaves. Einstein was a complete asshole. If you read about his history, he was a horrible, horrible man. Teddy Roosevelt was a bigot, hated the Mexicans. I have this theory about history, which is most of it is BS. Most of it is not true. It's been made after the fact. You don't think you've been whitewashed about our presidents? I don't know. I'm almost done. I have this theory about life, and it goes like this. What was important when you were 13 is always going to be what's important. It's still important. And I know this is a gross generalization because I don't know most of you, but I think most people really only want 3 things. And it's the same 3 things they wanted with 13, my theory. One is most people horribly want to be accepted. They want people to accept them. 2, they want money, because most people think if I had money, I would be free, which is true. And 3, they want love/sex. Women want the love part. The guys want some of that, but they want the sex part. Some of the guys know you're saying, no, I'm not like that. I like love too. But it's acceptance, money, and love are pretty much what I think people are looking for. And if you can find a business that does that, that's the business we're in. We do music, food and drink. We do what these guys do, and it's very lucrative because it's what people want. Let me give you a final thought, and then we'll take some questions. All kidding aside, you are going to die relatively soon, and I mean that in a positive sense. Your time here is very limited. I think a lot of people that I meet are very worried about everything. What do people think? They don't think about you. Let's practice. Today, did anybody in here give any thought to anybody you went to high school with? The answer's probably not. They didn't think about you either. or college, or that matter. Most people live in the present as you do. So whatever you have in your mind that's scaring you about expanding your business or getting into other partnerships, I would let that go. My wife and I have this kind of crazy life in which we live part of the time in California, part of the time in DC, part of the time in Delaware. And I try to pack as many things in as I can, which drives her crazy. So today we're here speaking, and tomorrow we're going to a Broadway open for American Psycho, which we're a part owner of, and then we're going to the Jazz Fest in New Orleans. It's not for everybody running around like that, but I always feel like, well, I'm running out of time, and I may as well do as many things as possible. So that's where the money comes in. That doesn't fit everybody. I know a lot of you like to sit and read. A lot of people like to watch television. I don't, on that subject, I don't understand television. I never have. I don't watch it. I don't even get it. I find you got to go into a room where the television is, which I don't like. I never got that. I know we're pretty close to a world in which you can carry it around and maybe I'll participate. But I feel like it's a passive life, and I don't know what on there is going to be more interesting than people. I think you're really interesting. I'd like to meet you all. I think I could sit down with all of you and make a lot of laughs, and we could all be partners. I think you'd be partners with anybody. And final comment before I take questions. This really is a fascinating country. We're very free, and there aren't a lot of rules. And I'll tell you this closing comment about what happened to me. I worked at the Justice Department for a long time. I was trying to learn how to be a lawyer. And because I was such a poor writer, I was such a poor student, I had trouble passing the bar. I mean, it's a zoo, what I went through. But I finally passed, and I told the guys at the Department of Justice, I got to stay here a while because I'm really not any good at any of this until I figure it out, and then I'll go make a living. So once I figured it out, my wife at that time worked at the White House, and they were looking for somebody to go over to HUD to run the housing program for the United States. So I went over there. And I had whatever it was, 20,000 employees and all. I knew nothing about it, but I was a lawyer, and they give you kind of a free ride. They give doctors and lawyers in this country free rides. Neither one of the groups are really that smart. And right in the middle of it, the Prime Minister of Portugal dies. And I get this call from the White House, and they said, you're the highest ranking Portuguese in America in the United States. And we're going to put you on Air Force One. You're going to go to the funeral representing the United States. I said, that's a great idea. I don't have a passport. And he goes, this is the United States. What do you mean a passport? We're going to be on Air Force One. And so they pick me up. I get on Air Force One with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I'm very anti-war, by the way. So I got long hair, and I'm on Air Force One with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all those guys. And I'm talking about the end to the war because I'm also in the military. And we go over there, and there's a big ceremony, and all the countries of the world are there. And the ceremony was like 12 o'clock. And it's like 12 o'clock, and we're still at the hotel because we have the top floor of the Ritz, the United States. And I said, we better get over there. We're going to miss it. And this guy says to me from the Foreign Service, we're the United States. Nothing starts without us. We get there when we get there, and we sit on the altar. It was in a big, long church, very famous 14th century church. So we go over there. We get there last. Everybody waits for us. The United States sits on the altar. They do the thing. Afterwards, we go to the embassy. And I'm with Senator Pell, Pell Grants. He was alive at the time. Very funny guy, real aristocrat from Rhode Island. Never knew anything about anything. And the famous story about Senator Pell was that he was so out of touch that one day it was raining, and he said, does anybody have a pair of rubbers? And don't even have them anymore. Rubbers were things you used to put in your shoes. And they were all running around to get Senator Pell a set of rubbers, and they went to a store called Tom McCann, which used to sell them. And they bought them, and afterwards, because he was such an aristocrat, he said, oh, by the way, I'm done. Here's the rubbers. Would you tell Tom, thank you very much? Meaning, he didn't even know Tom McCann was a store. Senator Pell was with me. We're going around where the ambassador's home, and he's walking around. And I said, Senator Pell, you okay? And he said, this is very familiar. And his assistant said to him, Senator Pell, when you grew up, your father was ambassador to Portugal. You grew up here. This is your bedroom, actually. And Senator Pell said, yes, of course. Yeah, I remember it. And I thought to myself, must be nice to be so removed from it. Point of the story being, Senator Pell goes on and he passes away. Those stories are all in the past. I don't know what it all means, other than to me, I don't think for someone like myself who's had a jumbled life, or somebody like yourself, somebody you feel like life isn't exactly what you thought, I really don't think it matters. I think what really matters is that you try really hard, you try to do as many things as you can, and live your own life. because you are here for such a short period of time. And here in Delaware, where it's so wide open, and we have an ocean, elderly people, lots of money. We're within, by the way, we're within 4 hours of 100 million people. It's another factor. It's very easy to do well here. And I hope you all do. I hope your companies do well. I'm supposed to give you some time to answer questions. So if you have any questions, fire away. That's my offering for you this morning. Please.
Work? Hello? I have a mic now. If anyone has any questions.
Was it that bad? All right, Todd, do you have anything else you want me to do or say?
Can you tell us how you got involved with the Bottle and Cork and why you bought it?
I used to go all the time and drink like all of you, and this was back in the 80s, and the guy, Mr. Castle, who just got elected to be governor, I couldn't own it anymore. He was one of the partners. They had 4 guys, they were partners. So they decided to sell it, and I happened to be in there at the time, and I thought, well, maybe I could get some people together, and I got 4 or 5 people that I knew, and we raised the money amongst ourselves, bought the Bottle and Cork, which has been an unbelievable moneymaker for all this time, and it's very simple. The art of this business and the art of music is the 21 to 26-year-old girl. She's the center of the universe, and she's made us all very wealthy. Everybody wants to be a girl who's 21 to 26 for all the obvious reasons. She has beautiful hair, beautiful skin. She's got a lot of energy. She parties all the time, and everybody wants to chase her. And for those of guys of you who are older, I do have to tell you this because I see it every week. For those of guys who are in the 40s and 50s, I know you think you're going to get that girl. That's why you go. I see it every week. But I know something you don't know, which is that girl really doesn't want a guy who's 30 to 40 years older than you. She's just being polite. Women are that smart. So you can come to the Bottle and Cook, which we do. But the businesses that we have like that are very lucrative because that girl is endless. The millennials are bigger, the next generation, they're bigger than the boomers. They're the largest drinking group in the history of the world. I'll give you an idea, a fact that just came out. The average sitting, a millennial drinks 3.1 glasses of wine, which is the world record. I mean, these people know how to party and how to spend a lot of money, and they live for today. They're not interested in cars, they're not interested in a lot of the traditional stuff, and they like to have a good time, and I think that's another thing for Delaware. So that's the Bottle and Cork story. We still have it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
You are colorful and you are fearless, so I figured you would be fine in sharing this. What would be your biggest regret, whether it be professional or personal?
Regrets? Gosh. I got married very young to a really nice girl, my first girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend. And I used to say this in college, I was the last guy in America to have sex. I had gotten to the point where I had just given up. And I was at this party, drunk as usual, and I was, at this girl, and I said, look, I've given up on the idea. It's never going to happen. I can't do it. And she very nonchalantly said, do what? And I said, I can see it's never going to happen. So if you're dating me with the idea there's going to be some rants and all that, you want to see me, I'm just so lousy at it. And she said, that's not a big deal. You made a big deal out of it, and it's not all that great anyway. And so I married her, and I think my only regret was I was so busy doing a lot of stuff that I should have been. And what actually happened, and my current wife is here, and she knows what happened, which I know is not going to make a lot of sense to you, but we were living, we had kids and all that, lived in DC, practicing law and all that, and she wanted to go to Harvard graduate school. So I got her apartment in Cambridge, and she was commuting. She went to school and came home weekends. And one day she came home and she said, I don't love you anymore. I met this girl, and I want to marry her, which is tough when you're younger because they had children and all that. It was a little confusing. And I started going to therapy every day. I went to therapy. I was the therapy king of Washington, D.C. I went 7 days a week, 2 sessions a day, figuring, whatever it is you have to tell me, just tell me so I can get this over with. Wore out 2 therapists, and they came to the conclusion that she just loved somebody else and it wasn't to be. So, which is why I'm going to the Jazz Festival the day after tomorrow. I went to the Jazz Festival for her to have a goodbye party. She brought 8 of her girlfriends. We smoked a lot of weed and we got drunk, and I went out in search for a new world, and I was there about an hour, and this young lady who's here in front of me who's tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, I saw you speak in Boston. I used to speak a lot about, I was anti-tobacco. I had sued Philip Morris. And she said, you're really, really funny, and I know it's you. I'm in love with you, and I know it's you. And I said, I'm having a tough day. My wife is leaving me, and I'm confused. But hold that thought. And so we fell in love, and I married her. Regrets, I don't know. It's too complicated. I don't even understand what happened to me. I don't ever look back, to be really honest with you. I don't understand it. I think things change. I just gave a reunion for my high school 50th anniversary, and in order to get people there, I did it for all 10 years, the 5 years front, 5 years back, and I did it at a big mansion in Massachusetts and invited everybody, and we had 350 people, and I paid for it all and bought some bands actually from Delaware. And I thought, it would be interesting to say goodbye that way. And, it was junior high school all over again. People who didn't like you then still don't like you. Money had nothing to do with it. So I don't really have any regrets, to be honest with you. I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I'm sure there's people who are going to leave this and say, what an asshole he is. Why did he speak about that stuff? Or I don't like swearing, or I don't, I think he makes light of life. I do think this. I think life is very serious for a lot of people. And I feel badly about that. But I think you're a free human being, and you can do a lot more than you give yourself credit for. I think most people in this room, if you took your grade averages, you did better than I did, and I think most people are much smarter than I am. So how do I survive? I don't know. I kind of scrape, and I go to see the dean at Cornell, and I sit there for 7 hours, and I try to talk him to taking somebody with a 1.9 average. I have a daughter. The same thing happened to her. It's the worst. My daughter was the national worst student in America winner. She went to private school for 12 years, never learned anything. Horrible. So when it came time to graduate from her private school in D.C., everybody was going to Yale and Harvard and all that, and she went to a school you never heard of. And I kept telling her, just go there for a while and transfer. It's the biggest secret in America. You can transfer anywhere. She wanted to go to the University of Southern California, so she sat down and she wrote a song about it, and she did this crazy song. It was so horrible. I thought, you're either going to get in or they're going to laugh at you. So, of course, she got in. So we went to the orientation of the University of Southern California. We're going through the orientation line, and this woman says, oh my God, it's Claire Pires, the girl who wrote the song. We play it at the University of Southern California. Now, she ended up being a lousy student there, too. But the point is, I think the rules are changing, and that people who snaff at you, people who are torty about you, for example, you can't go to country clubs wearing a hat. My answer is, fuck you, then I won't go. I don't give a shit about you at your country club. What does it mean anyway? You exclude people. Fuck you. I hope you get a disease. I hope you go to your country club with your snotty ideas and you get a horrible disease because you have the wrong people in the kitchen, and I hope you die early, so fuck yourself. Now, people don't want to hear that, but that's how I feel about anything that's exclusionary. What's the point about that? Who made you something? You're not any different than anybody else. That's why I had all this black and Native American lawsuits and all that. It was me getting even for the guy in the red car who took my girl. It's really all comes back to that. Am I helping you at all? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. We were living in Washington, D.C., and I really believe in partners, so I had all these groups of friends, and I came from New England, so we used to all go to Cape Cod there. So when I moved to D.C., I asked, where's the beach? And they said, if you go straight east, you'll hit Rehoboth and Dewey. So I got a buddy of mine, and we drove there, and we ended up in Dewey and got this little cottage. And the following year, we ended up buying 6 or 7 little cottages. That type of things doesn't exist anymore. On the same street as the Ball and Cork. and we had children and all the horrible things that happened to you. And can I talk about children for a second on that subject? Everybody thinks they have the most wonderful child. What a coincidence. You have the most brilliant, good-looking child. I mean, fuck you. There's 8 billion children. I mean, don't do that to them. I tell my kids all the time, I'm not all that crazy about you. Go make your own living. You know, I'm not going to be a helicopter parent. Fuck you. Get out there and hustle for yourself. And if you think you're nice, be nice. And if you think you want to be a jerk, be a jerk. But I don't like this whole concept of a whole generation of people babysitting their children. I think you take away their self-confidence. I think what's good for you is you need to take a beating. That's what it is. I think the more times you lose and fall and slip and get insulted and people make fun of you and you got to get down and pick up, the stronger you become. And I think a lot of businesses are like that. We've had a lot of my partners are here. We lose all the time. I don't think most people succeed in 50% of the time. I don't think that's the concept. I think the concept is to keep trying, and every now and then you'll have something that's successful. And the problem is, as you get older, your partners become conservative because everybody's trying to make the money last. And I don't understand that either. I mean, we have cancer. You could die at any moment. So, do you think you'd live any differently if you knew what your date of death was? Do you? I would. I'd go even faster. Anybody else? Yes, sir. I think it's actually pretty easy. You have to think the way your partners think. Partners want, all guys want to be Mr. Big Pants, right? Everybody wants to be, right? When they have the party, they want to decide who sits where and all that kind of stuff. That's all easy stuff. Be generous with your partners. Make them look good and feel good. I know how to make guys look good. That's what I'm good at. And that's what partners want. They want the best tables and the best seats, and they want to go to the Super Bowl. I don't even like football. I don't know how many years my wife and I dragged everybody to that stupid fucking game. I hate football. And I'd go because I know guys want to go and say, well, I can't go this weekend. I'm going to the Super Bowl, right? That's a big thing with guys who like football. You have to do those kinds of things. You have to create events for people. My wife and I, it's a true story. Last time we went, it was in Miami, I think, and I was the whole time trying to say, let's just wait till the end of the first period and we can go, right? So we're sneaking out of the Super Bowl and we get downstairs and we were the only people there outside trying to get a cab. There were like 400 cabs. We went downtown, went to El Rocco or something. We were eating and we were watching the Super Bowl on a game, which I thought was very funny and very cool. I saw the Super Bowl that way. I think partners want that. I think partners want real honesty. I think if you tell a partner everything, they will stay with you forever. I still have pretty much the same partners. You can tell them the good and the bad, and they just want to know. They want to know the details. I think when partnerships go bad, it's because a person feels like they're being left out or they're not being told the truth. If you tell them everything, they're happy. Most people, look what happens in your daily life. How often do you get invited to somebody at somebody's house, right? Which is where the real fun is. Nobody invites anybody anymore. I say to my wife all the time, we have to create these events, invite people, because they want to go to shit and have fun, right? A lot of the times we never get invited back. I don't give a shit. I don't care. What difference does it make? It's counting. You're going to die soon is my answer to all of that. I think partners want to be invited to things. They want to know the numbers. They want to know we're in trouble. Most partners want it to succeed, and they want it to have some meaning. And I think you can, like we started the bank, the bank has been really successful, and the partners, I think, are happy. They want money. We give dividends, for example. We're the only bank, I think, in Delaware. We give dividends every month because they just don't want to wait to the quarter because they want to spend it immediately. So we give dividends 2 days after we declare it, and they all like that. So am I helping you at all? When you say they go bad, they have fights or they feel, really? Oh. They don't get along? Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I think most people are very nice. And I think the difference is most people are afraid to tell you what they're really like. because they're afraid that if they tell you what they're really like, you won't like them. And I believe the exact opposite. I mean, you heard a lot about me. I've got all kinds of character faults and falls, and I'm actually a halfway decent guy. So I'm not a risk to anybody because they think, look, he's kind of a jerk, and he's an approachable jerk, and that makes it easier for people. I think if you try to make yourself into something you're not, it's harder. It's kind of like a little lie. And I think partnerships are like that. I think most people want to be in partners with people. They want something going on in their life, because for most people, other than buying their house, there's not a lot going on, because they can't find that person that they can trust the money to. And I think if you're really honest with people and have good credit, you can get partners all the time, because as you said, they want a partner. They do. This is a partnership. Most things are. Is that helpful at all? A little bit. Anybody else? Yes, sir. I don't know, Bill. I don't know. I think measuring is, yeah. There's a table here of people that we do our business with every day. We have 10 people who run our companies, and we meet once a week. And then every Monday they send me a little summary of what's going on, and I try to respond to them all. And we fumble along, and we make a lot of mistakes. I think there's more failures in everybody's life than there is successes, which is why successes are such a high. And I think most things that are high are because they're exceptions to the rule, that most of life is kind of plowing along. When I come to something like this and I try to get people inspired, I feel like if I just give you a concept that life is short, that you're perfect the way you are, that there's nothing absolutely wrong with you whatsoever. Matter of fact, you're so unique. Learn how to shake someone's hand, learn how to eat, learn how to present yourself, learn how to be modest about all the character falls and stop bragging about them. I will tell you this much, if you go around this week and you tell people about all the shit that's wrong with you in a nice way, you will find the average person says, I can help you with that. They want to help you. Most people want to help you. So an overachiever, I don't think so. I mean, I never understood the concept of school, and I used to say to my father, I don't get it. You go and sit in a room, this guy says something, then the test comes, you have to have memorized it, and you give it back. I get the idea, but I'm just not going to memorize it. I get the general idea of what it is, but I'm not going to go like a seal and say I sat that night and I memorized it all and I give it back. Screw you, I'm not going to do that. Except it hurts you. I got punished for that. So I should have gone to, I suppose, better schools. But I don't really care about that. Billy, I don't care about that part of it. What difference does it make? I had a wife who went to Harvard. She's no happier than I am. My kids went to great schools, and I don't see them any happier or less happier. I mean, my kids all went to Ivy League schools. My daughter went, after USC, she went to Columbia. My son went to Amherst and Penn and all that. They're just as fucked up as I am. And I don't buy all that. I just don't. I don't buy the achieving part. I think it's all about effort. I know you make a tremendous effort, Billy. You try really, really hard. You know, I think that's it. Thanks, Bill. You've all been very, very patient. I'll be here for a few minutes afterwards if you want to talk. For those people who are offended by swearing, I apologize to you. That's me. It's another character fault. I suppose I could have been more disciplined. For those people who have down the road some idea you want to do something, I'll do something with anybody. We're open to trying just about anything. And I know Martha, the controller of our company, is sitting there going crazy when I say that. I will tell you one thing. I have to pass on one message to you. Last year, I did a music festival in Harrington with Live Nation and Corn Capshaw. Corn Capshaw manages pretty much, he has the highest or percentage of country stars, and he, as rock stars and everybody, he's kind of at the top of the food chain in American music. And so I got to know those guys, and I picked up something very interesting about Korn, and I don't know whether Korn's a billionaire or not, it doesn't matter. They all have their own jets, I know that. And every time I'd call or text Korn, he would respond immediately. And I'm a nobody in the industry, and he is the single most powerful person in music in America. And I once asked him, I said, how do you do that? And he said, every time I get a message, because he has 250 music clients, and, the real truth of the matter is Bonnaroo, Korn owns Bonnaroo, and South by Southwest is Korn, and he's behind every single thing. Bonnaroo came about because they wanted Dave Matthews, and he said, I'll give you Dave Matthews if you give us an ownership interest, and he eventually bought it all. Korn's a very nice person and very nice, but he responds to everything. And one of the things I learned from Korn that I wasn't doing, which I now do, is I respond to everything immediately, every text and every email. Even if you just say, sorry, I'm busy now, I'll get back to you. Korn responded to everything. And I used to say, you have 200 musicians and you've got 15 festivals and you're in 10 different countries and you've got 12 offices. And he said, you have to do that, Al. You have to respond to everything. So I wanted to pass that along to you. I hope that helps. Anybody else? Are we out of time? Bill? Yeah. Thank you all very, very much.